Hey guys, what's going on? If you are looking for the best general liability insurance for your construction company, you've come to the right place. So here at GRBM, we've been working with contractors for over 30 years to help them find the right insurance coverage to meet their needs. I personally have been working with contractors for 10 years doing that same thing. My goal is to help you find the right coverage easy and simply. And with a 5-star rating on Google, I think we're doing a pretty good job at meeting our clients' expectations. So, as I'm sure many of you know, the insurance market here in New York is kind of a volatile one, and companies jump in and out, so having a broker that deals with construction accounts on a daily basis is critically important. So, just in case you didn't know, the number one reason insurance is so expensive here in New York is action over claims. Now, I'm not going to get super deep on that. We've done videos, we've done other articles about it, but action over claims are what cause contractors here in the state of New York to pay approximately 10 times what contractors in other states pay for their general liability insurance. I know that was a whole bunch of bad news, but it is the reality, and that's the reason that these minimum premiums are as high as they are. So one important thing to get to before we jump into the list, and that is here in the insurance world, general contractors refer to construction firms that subcontract out all or at least the vast majority of the construction labor. That makes a big difference with different companies that we recommend, so just keep that in mind. Now, without further delay, let's get into the list. I've kind of broken it down by both region and different trade, and since the majority of our visitors and clients are based in New York City, that's where we're going to start. When it comes to general contractors in New York City, there's really 4 names that you should know. Number 1 is Travelers. Now, if you are a commercial general contractor, greater than 10 million in receipts, Travelers is the best, far and away, option for your general liability. Good news is they don't just want your general liability, they want your workers' comp, your auto, your bonding, your equipment, everything. Now, if you don't qualify for Travelers, maybe you do some residential, maybe you're not quite 10 million in receipts, there are still options. And that's where Prime Specialty comes in. Prime is still a very good option, not quite as great as Travelers, but they fit a different need in the market because Travelers is strictly commercial only, whereas Prime will do a variety of different types of work. Now, if you're a little on the smaller side, Prime is probably not your fit because their premiums start at $175,000, which puts them out of budget for some of the smaller contractors. But there are still some good options if you're a smaller general contractor. For your smaller general contractors, Mount Holly, part of RLI Company, is your best option available today. Now, as you move down from Travelers to Prime to RLI, the coverage changes a little bit. At the top, you've got Travelers, who is the most broad, has the best coverage, but you kind of step down and with that, your price steps down, but you do get the limitations. Like RLI, they're going to let you do commercial or residential, but they're going to cap you at a 3-story height limitation. They're also going to have a much tighter hammer clause, which a hammer clause basically means all of your subs have to have action over, and if you don't, you have no coverage. So it kind of, it ratchets down in price, but also gets more restrictive in the type of work you can do and all sorts of things. But that being said, RLI is not a bad company, and I didn't mean for it to sound that way. It just has its limitations, and it's not going to be the same as, a Prime, which is, 3 or 4 times the price. Now, if you are a residential only general contractor and you work on the smaller scale, maybe $1 million in receipts or just over that, there is another option for you, and that's called Gotham. They are going to have a lower minimum premium than even RLI, but once again, they really only want residential, kind of like Travelers only wants commercial, Gotham only wants residential. So, bit of a difference there, but once again, still good coverage, has action over, and is designed for general contractors. So that wraps it up for general contractors here in New York City. Moving on, we're going to discuss the different artisan or trade contractors, whatever term you feel like using. But when it comes to actually self-performing your construction labor, there's a variety of insurance companies based on your individual trade. Being that we deal with a ton of carpentry contractors, that is where we're going to start. And for carpentry contractors operating in New York City, the best option available is with Minico. Now, Minico is a great company based here in New York, and they provide action over. They have fairly low minimum premiums at $27,000, and they do a good job come claim time. So, carpentry contractors, think Minico. Now, moving right along, we're going to stick with Minico, but this is for your smaller masonry contractors. Now, smaller meaning maybe you don't tackle those big jobs, or you just have lower employee count. With Minico and masonry, there are some limitations, but it is still a great solution for many masonry contractors. The main limitation has to do with the height exposure. Minico really doesn't want to go higher than 7 stories on the outside of a building. But if you are doing higher than 7 stories, you have a lot of guys on your crew, there are still options. In that case, I highly recommend American Empire. Now, American Empire is more expensive. Their minimum premium starts quite a bit higher than Minico at $150,000, but American Empire is the policy to have if you're a masonry contractor working above 7 stories here in New York City. Basically, you've got no height limitation, no hammer clause. It's just a really broad, well-written policy that is going to cover you when a claim happens. Because let's be honest, if you're working 8, 10, 12, 20 stories up, you're going to have a claim at some point. Having an insurance company that has your back is super important. So moving right along, we're going to get to the lighter trades, which here in the insurance world, we consider the lighter trades electrical, plumbing, and HVAC. And for all of those trades, we recommend Travelers Insurance Company. Now, Travelers has basically 2 sections of the house. And on the smaller side, which would be your, 3 to maybe 5 guys, they want you to be a primarily residential contractor. But on the larger side, once you get up into the $750,000 to $1 million plus in payroll, they want you to focus on commercial projects versus residential projects, which is pretty likely. I mean, the larger contractors that we see, typically that is kind of how they work. You don't see too many big, multi-million dollar electrical contractors working in residential houses. They just take on bigger projects. So, not a huge surprise that for larger, they want you to focus on commercial, smaller, they want you to focus on residential. From our experience, that is typically how it actually breaks out in the real world as well, which is nice when insurance and real world line up. It makes life easier. So once again, if you are doing plumbing, electrical, or HVAC work in New York City, think Travelers. They are probably going to be your best bet, and we would be happy to get a quote with them for you. Now, getting back to the more risky trades, we're going to talk about roofing. Now, for those of you in the roofing industry, insurance is basically a problem every year. You jump on a carrier, they jump out, blah, blah, blah. It's a whole hassle. Well, the good news is if you can afford it, American Empire, that same American Empire from earlier in the video with masonry, they tackle roofing as well, and they do a really good job with it. Same deal, very broad coverage form, but still a very high minimum premium. That being said, you get what you pay for, and when your guys are up on the roof, it's not if, it's a matter of when. Someone is going to fall, you're going to have an action over claim, and American Empire is the carrier that you want handling that action over claim. Bottom line. Now, sticking with American Empire, but moving on to another trade, we're going to talk scaffolding. Scaffolding and rigging is kind of the same deal as roofing. It's insanely dangerous. When you're setting up scaffolding, it could be 30 or 50 or even more stories high, and setting up that scaffolding, it's a whole super high risk operation. American Empire is the carrier for you, but once again, they're going to be expensive. But, as many of you know, the likelihood of having a claim is fairly high, regardless of how many times you go through OSHA training and toolbox talks, etc. Something is going to happen at some point, and having cut rate, crappy coverage is not a good plan. So wrapping up New York City, we're going to talk about environmental contractors. Now, environmental contractors are kind of a broad spectrum of things. You've got your asbestos guys, you've got your lead guys, you've got even your fire, water, mold, like your ServPro type contractor. All of that rolls into environmental. And when it comes to environmental risks, the leading carrier, in my opinion, is a company called Markel. Now, Markel does a really great job of creative underwriting to get you the coverage you need at a price you can afford, and that includes doing things like high deductible, increased pollution limits so you don't have to try and get that on your umbrella. They've just become a really creative player to get coverage at a good price, carved out for what you need. So if you are in the environmental trades, including oil tank removal, asbestos remediation, lead paint, fire, water, think Markel, and think GRBM. So that does it for New York City contracting risks, and we're going to move right along to the upstate risks. Now, once again, just because you are upstate doesn't mean this is necessarily going to be the best fit for you, because our main office is here in Brewster, And a lot of the guys here in Brewster are, quote, upstate, but they do a tremendous amount of their work in New York City. So if that is the case, you're really going to fall much more so into the New York City list than the upstate list. Just something to keep in mind for a lot of you Hudson Valley contractors that operate very heavily in New York City. So when it comes to general contractors operating upstate New York, there really is three main players, and it all depends on what type of work you're doing and how large you are. If you are greater than $10 million in receipts and you focus on commercial projects, Travelers is the place to be for your general liability insurance. And once again, as well, they want your commercial auto, your workers' comp, really all of your insurance Travelers is interested in providing if you meet their criteria. Now, if you don't quite qualify for Travelers, another excellent option for you is with Admiral Insurance. Admiral Insurance, A+ rated, very strong company, not quite as great as Travelers because Travelers is admitted, but I'm not going to get into all of that. If you can't qualify for Travelers because maybe you're doing some residential work, variety of reasons, but Admiral Insurance is a great option for general contractors here in New York that do residential, commercial, a wide variety of things. Lower minimum premiums than Travelers and still very broad coverage. Now, if you are a general contractor but focus on single family houses and smaller developments, like maybe 1 or 2 units per site versus like a whole planned community kind of thing, there is another company that is probably a better fit than Admiral or Travelers, and that is a company called Gotham. Gotham focuses just on that narrow niche of home builders or paper general contractors that do single family homes and not major developments. And they do a great job here in New York for you. So that does it for general contractors here in New York. We're gonna move right along to trade contractors. Once again, trade contractors operating in upstate New York, not you guys in Westchester. That's not upstate. Putnam County, possibly upstate, but it depends on where you're working. So just keep that in mind. When it comes to contractors upstate, the most common thing we deal with, once again, is carpentry contractors. When it comes to carpentry contractors, GL, upstate New York, Main Street America is the best option. Another great thing about Main Street America is they can do your trucks, they can do an umbrella, sometimes they can even do your workers' comp, but probably don't hold your breath on that. But Main Street America, great A-rated company, mutual company, which I know probably doesn't mean anything to you guys, but they're like a smaller regional company, a little more homey, a little friendlier to deal with than some of those big companies that really just, you're a number to them and they don't have that same feel. You know, upstate, we like that homey feel. Main Street delivers on that. Sticking with Main Street America, but moving on to another trade, if you are a smaller masonry contractor, now that would be the guys who focus on retaining walls, maybe a little bit of landscaping even in there, but not like, you're not building brick houses or high rises or anything like that. Smaller masonry contractors, Main Street America is a great option for you. They will allow you to work up to 3 stories, but once again, their focus is residential, maybe some light commercial, not so much high rise, high risk stuff. If you're interested in doing that sort of stuff, you want to move on to a company called American Empire. American Empire is going to take on those high-rise projects, much larger, higher risk masonry projects. Downside is American Empire has a much higher minimum premium, whereas Main Street America, you could probably get away with, you know, a $2,000 policy for an owner only. American Empire, it's not going to be anywhere near $2,000. Despite American Empire's high minimum premium, they are still a great company. They offer great coverage, but you just have to be able to budget for it. Moving on to a little lower risk class, we're gonna talk electrical and plumbing contractors. If you're an electrical or plumbing contractor here in New York, once again, upstate, the best option available, if you qualify, is Merchants Mutual. Merchants Mutual, great company based out of Buffalo. They do an outstanding job. They'll even include some incidental E&O coverage. They'll write your workers' comp, your auto, and really great. Another cool thing is they rate on the number of employees versus payroll. So just because you gave John, your supervisor, a raise doesn't mean your insurance premium has to go up for your GL. Your workers' comp, I'm sorry, is still going to go up. But GL, is going to stay the same. They rate on the number of employees. It's super convenient, makes audits an absolute breeze. So if your business is an electrical or plumbing contractor here in upstate New York, Merchants Mutual is probably your best option. Once again, rated on the number of employees. They'll do your auto, your workers' comp. They are just a great option for electrical and plumbing contractors here in New York. So moving right along, we're going to talk HVAC contractors. Now, I know HVAC contractors tend to do a lot of different things, including sometimes electrical, sometimes plumbing. It kind of tends to be like a catch-all. A lot of HVAC firms tend to do a variety of things, and because of that, Main Street America is a great fit because they'll do electrical, they'll do plumbing, but they can do it all together. We can add multiple class codes to the policy and keep it really nice. Once again, workers' comp, commercial auto, umbrella, all of that, Main Street America, really great option for HVAC contractors. Now, unfortunately, when it comes to upstate roofing contractors, we see way too many roofing contractors with what we consider junk coverage. Now, junk coverage means no action over. In New York City, you rarely see that because so many people are so vigilant on checking policy. If you're working upstate and you're paying surprisingly low premiums compared to maybe some of your other roofing contracting friends, you probably do not have action over coverage. So you're paying a lot less, which is good, but it's also bad because when somebody falls off a roof and decides to sue everybody, your insurance policy is just going to send out a real nice, quick declination letter. You don't want that. What you want is Admiral Insurance to be your general liability carrier. Admiral is going to provide action over and good broad coverage so that when a claim happens, you're not left holding a denial letter. Nobody wants to hold a denial letter and then have to hire an attorney, defend yourself. That's a super expensive process, way worse than just paying for the right coverage. I'm done beating you roofing contractors up. We'll move ahead. Let's talk scaffolding. Scaffolding is not really as common once we get outside of New York City, but there are still scaffolding contractors in the Buffalo and Albany region. We see them. So, same deal as New York City. When it comes to scaffolding, really there is one clear choice winner, and that is American Empire. American Empire, no height limit, no hammer clause, just really broad, good contractors insurance coverage. Downside, very high minimum premiums. But you get what you pay for. That being said, if you're doing scaffolding work outside of New York City, American Empire is the best option available in 2018. Now, getting to the very last trade we are going to talk about here, and that is environmental contractors, including your fire water restoration, your mold and asbestos, your lead paint removers, all of that environmental. Oh, and including the all too common oil tank removers. Markel Insurance is the best general liability and pollution carrier for you. Same deal is for the New York City contractors. They can kind of get creative as far as carving things out and making sure that you have the right coverage while carving things out so you don't pay for things you don't need. Really great option with Markel. So just a couple of things to keep in mind before I go, and that is just because we recommend a particular carrier doesn't mean that's necessarily going to be the best fit for you. There's a lot of things that go into underwriting a construction account, and as much as I would love to place every single one of you with one of those carriers that I mentioned, I know that's not the case. Things happen, different things with your unique account that make it so we have to place you with somebody else. We work with probably about 30 different insurance companies and have access to even more. So when it comes to what's going on, who's coming in, who's coming out, we really do try and keep a handle on that and get contracts with them so we can work with all of them. So in conclusion, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in, watching this video. I really appreciate it, and I would be happy to help you get the right insurance coverage for your construction business. I'm a broker here in New York. We work with all the different carriers, and feel free, reach out, or you know what? If you don't feel like reaching out, just give me a thumbs up. Let me know you watched the video, you appreciate it. It means the world to me. Take it easy, guys. Have a good one.